For more, let's turn to our own Lawrence O'Donnell, former chief of staff to that Senate Finance Committee, now contributor to the Huffington Post, and of course here at MSNBC. Lawrence, good evening.
Good to be here, Keith.
Every other silver lining has a cloud. What is the cloud in opt-out?
Well, I agree with Senator Wyden. It's very unclear what version of the public option this would be. It would probably be an extremely watered-down version of the public option that then states would have the option to opt out of. And so it's bringing something small to the table that seems to be in some kind of cover, something that the phrase public option can be used to cover as they move it through the floor. But it's so unknown now as exactly what version of the public option are they talking about putting in this thing, in this vehicle. We just don't know what it is.
Is there some prospect that even if it's an acceptable version of a public option, that doing it in this way, for want of a better term, sends us down the path towards balkanizing the nation, at least from an insurance and health point of view?
Absolutely. It's terrible public policy to have federal laws with states having the ability to opt out of federal laws. That is just a terrible concept to begin with. It's not something I would ever want to be trying to legislate.
At the same time, as we indicated with Senator Wyden, there are these 30 other Democrats still demanding the full public option, and some went to the floor of the Senate tonight to do this, are doing so as we speak. What are their chances of making that happen? It's obviously a great show of support and good for the egos and the psyches of everybody who has supported this. But what are their chances of actually making it happen?
Well, what's interesting to me this time around, Keith, is that it matters. The egos and the psyches of people who support this matter to these senators, and that's something new. The blogosphere and cable news and these shows have been able to put pressure on them to let them know that people are watching. They're doing this because people are watching. What they need to do is double their number. They need to convince other senators. 30 will not be enough to get this across the Senate floor. They need to get out there and convince other senators, and they need to follow them down the hallway after they see them on the floor and work them in the elevators. They've got to convince other senators.
Senator Grassley, for a moment, he says he still doesn't plan to vote for this. He's still using the scare tactics. He's still invoking insurance industry greed as his baseline for reform. He is talking about, well, the insurance industry is going to be hurt by this and pass on its costs to the consumer, and we're taking money away from seniors, and all the rest of the scare tactics with which he has filled this summer the way a manure farmer fills his quota. Why, again, was he let into the tent in the first place?
Well, he has that senior Republican position on the committee. He was the chairman under Republican rule. I'll tell you, in '94, he was on the committee. He was never a vote we were counting on. We never had a conversation with him about health care reform in '94. So I was actually surprised, knowing him and his history on the subject as I do, I was surprised to see him stay in the room as long as he did this year. I was also surprised when he came out of the room that he turned against everything that had been discussed in that room up till the time he left. That's surprising. When you lose a senator in negotiations where you've made it 90% of the way, they tend not to come back and criticize everything that they've already agreed to. And so that's been the extra surprising part of it for me.
Well, we saw two pictures of the senator just there. We saw him, and then on the easel behind him was the other version of him rearing up in all of his glory. The House, meanwhile, it's even more committed to the public option than those 30 Democrats who wrote to Mr. Reid today. Does the process get stickier if and when the House and Senate bills are merged, or to use the small r version of reconciled?
Much stickier, and the problem will not be the public option. The problem that they're all going to find the political reality on public option one way or another. The irreconcilable problem right now is, how do you pay for this? There is now a majority of Democrats in the House saying, we refuse the Baucus tax. We will not vote for the Baucus tax on health insurance companies. And this they agree with Chuck Grassley on, that will be completely passed on to the consumer, because there are absolutely no price controls on these health insurance companies that are going to be hit with a 40% tax. And Grassley's right in reading their greed, in the sense that they will simply pass that 40% tax directly onto the consumer through reduced benefits or increased premiums. And so it's the nutty thing about this is that you can be sending this massive subsidy regimen into the health insurance industry, and there's not a word, not a thought about price controls in the health insurance industry. They can do whatever they want after this law is passed. And so when you get to the pay for, that's 1/4 of Baucus's money comes from a plan that the House absolutely rejects. Now, the Senate is terribly afraid of taxing income, which is how the House has done it so far. Income is the cleanest thing to tax. It's the most equitable thing to tax. That would be the honest and clean way to go, but senators are terribly afraid of voting for what the House committee has voted for on taxation. So they are completely lost in terms of which way to go on taxation.
Yeah, sure. Go with the plan that doubles the current problem and institutionalizes it into law. Lawrence O'Donnell of the Huffington Post and MSNBC, great thanks as always.
Thanks, Keith.